What's going on, everyone? Coming to you from the beach again. Love the beach. Hope you love the beach. Been trying to figure out lately what to do with my collection of Marvel masterpieces. And I don't mean whether to keep or get rid of them. I mean what to do with them as far as a project goes. And I thought to myself, I want to show them, I want to enjoy them, continue to enjoy them, even when Marvel masterpieces isn't in the spotlight at the moment. So I'm going to make this little mini doc about my collection of Marvel masterpieces, showing off the cards that I have, the inserts that I have, the chases, and we'll get some involvement from people to let us know about what they think about masterpieces, what masterpieces means to them, what it was like to work on them, building sets, all that fun stuff. So let's check it out. Join me for this one. It'll be a fun one. Every card you see in here is one of mine. Thanks a lot, guys. Well, let's get started talking about Marvel masterpieces. It all starts in 1992 with Mr. Joe Jusko. I know a lot of people watching this have a background in masterpieces, but let's go over all of them. So we have Battle Spectra. This is all original art here. The one missing is the Sabretooth one because it's in my personal binder. These base sets, all original art, all oil paintings done by Joe Jusko. This is a high-end base set. This is the first time that Marvel cards got original art on a set that was designed to be premium and for the public to engage with as the highest end Marvel product. So as you look through these cards, there's so many classic characters that came out of this set and were painted incredibly. On the right there you see the Sabretooth, one of my favorite Sabretooths. Just a number of cards were done an amazing justice here. That Spider-Man, that Silver Surfer. This set just goes down as being classic. You see so many of these poses reused in sketch cards. I love that there's a checklist. 90s cards having a checklist is one of the coolest things ever. As you move into 1993, we have a set done by a variety of different artists, so they get away from having just one artist. This set is notorious for bricking in the modern era when it gets open. Look at that Iron Fist, one of the cooler cards in this set. Sabretooth looks like he stepped on a piece of Lego. I always like to describe him as that when he has that facial appearance. Spider-Man 2099 and that Venom card, so classic. You know, the Domino up there, a lot of really great cards in this. You know, that Deadpool, really iconic images. 93 isn't a rare set at all. These sets are so easy to come by on eBay, on the internet. You can get them all day long, and they're part of having a complete collection. Again, I've mentioned that I love the checklists. I wish that's something that would come back. But moving on, we go to the most iconic set that I think came out of the 90s masterpieces, 94, Hildebrandt Brothers with these foil inserts here. These come in bronze, gold, and silver. Obviously, silver being the more common. The Holo Flash here are just outstanding. This base set really highlights the Hildebrandt Brothers' incredible use of light. That Cyclops is just absolutely fire. You know, these carry over so well in a binder. I know a lot of us remember these from when we were younger. You know, this was elementary school for me. Seeing these cards like that Gambit just blew my mind as a young person, and having these in my collection is really important to me. All of the sets you're seeing here are from the binders that I have on my shelf. Masterpieces is a quintessential part of collecting sets, and having these is a must. This set looks amazing framed. I love having this up on the wall as well, so it's not just prisoner to a binder. But this set by the Hildebrandt Brothers was just outstanding. I love the family connection. I love how they tag teamed this project together. The inserts are not overwhelming as far as numbers go, but the quality of them is outstanding. That's a really great Venom card there too. In the back of this binder, I have one of the uncut promos. I love promo material in binder sets. It's a great way of just finishing off a binder. Moving on to 1995, Marvel Masterpieces. This is where sets began to get a little bit more rare. This is an expensive box of cards to find today. The artwork again is split up between a few different artists for this one, and you kind of get to see 3 artists tackling the same character. So as you notice, there are 3 characters. I mean, there's one character done by 3 artists, and you really get a range. I love this set. This is the first time that we get to see a canvas gallery insert. This is a really great time to bring this in because this will play out more in modern pieces. This had gold SIG cards, which is an amazing set to put together from this, and some really amazing inserts. The Holo Flash inserts from this are spectacular. The Sabretooth cards are really well done, and I'm really glad that there was a Holo Flash for this. This was part of a collection that I've had for years and years and years. That Venom card right there, oh my god. But putting this set together as well, it's having a 90s set of masterpieces. This is one of those portions of one of those contributions to it that is a must-have. The cards look great. They're different in a way. They definitely look more cartoony than realistic, and I really love that about the set. It's a standalone. And again, at the end of my binders, I love having one of the promo cards or promo sheets. Moving on to the most important set from the 90s, the rarest set. Julie Bell and Boris did the 1996 Marvel Masterpieces. These are huge. This is an amazing set. That's the case topper right there that you see. I mean, a lot of you know this set, but that Carnage card is just one of the best Carnage cards to ever walk the earth. This set was during a time, a lot of you know, when Marvel went bankrupt. So they say that the majority of this product, or at least half of this product, was never actually released to the public. This is the most expensive 90s set to put together, by far the most expensive boxes to get. There's 2 insert sets for this. There's the gold foil 6-card insert set, and then there's the double impact double-sided cards for this. Personally, that's not my favorite insert out of this. I do like the gold border ones the most. But the artwork in this is just really hammers home that high-end base card set that we're looking for in masterpieces. We keep saying that the name is self-explanatory, but this set really does highlight that. Like, this is a masterpiece of work catering to Marvel cards. I can't say enough good things about this set. If you are collecting the 90s, this is a cornerstone of that collection. You know, 90s masterpieces were the original. They were gorgeous, beautiful cards, incredible artists, an amazing base set, awesome chases. Then there was a 10-year gap. So this 10-year gap, there wasn't a whole lot going on with the Marvel world, let alone Marvel masterpieces. Now, there were sets coming out, but they weren't Marvel masterpieces, and there wasn't a lot of them. So after this 10-year break from 1996 to 2007, a Marvel Masterpiece set dropped, and it was a really interesting set. There is original art in the set. It was just also used in other Marvel products. So sometimes it can get a little bit convoluted. But there were sketch cards in this set. So this is the first time we see sketch cards in Masterpieces, because sketch cards came about in '98, Creator Series. And now in '07, we see them being entered into Marvel Masterpieces. So it was a sketch per box, which is amazing. And for a while, this stuck as the blueprint. So there was a series 1, 2, and then a 2008 series of this set. And the cards are different, but they're gorgeous. It's the last time we're going to see cards on 35-point stock. I love the 35-point stock, so for me, this is really enjoyable. There's a couple of different series inside, most notably the gold border series for the base set. Really cool for character collectors, really cool for people just putting that set together. And without further ado, I guess I'll show you this set. I got in binders, and it's a fun one. The inserts are cool. Different kind of images than we're accustomed to in the 90s, but it was a good way to transition into something new. So here it is. So, DoomCard. Let's talk about modern day masterpieces. Modern day starting at 2016 with Joe Jusko.
Joe Jusko, not a set I was too familiar with when I entered the hobby, right? For me, it was around 2021 when I entered. So that was always a set that was talked about in a high regard. And my introduction was like the first cards I was attracted to was the 94 masterpieces by the Hildebrand brothers. I love the Gambit and I love the Doom from that set. So, you know, going to Jusko and seeing the portrait he did for that set, those cards were always expensive. You know, they were tough to find. There's the whole tier system, tier 1 through 4.
Yeah.
And just trying to wrap my head around the pricing, you know, talking to people like Fausto, talking to people who've been here for a little bit. That was always it was interesting, and it was a fun thing to understand. It definitely took time to figure it out. It wasn't easy information to find, but I think there's enough people in the hobby now where you can kind of ask advice on certain sets and how they broke down. The introduction, I think, for what are the inserts in 2016? We got the
Canvas Gallery, we have the Battle Spectra, we have the Hollow
Battle
Foot.
Spectrum, right? Which those were part of the 90s too, right?
They were. So, you know, looking back, you have the 95 Canvas Gallery, which is your introduction to the Canvas Gallery. 92 Joe Jusko is where we see our first Battle Spectrum, which are, you know, for myself, Sabretooth and Wolverine are one of those cards, and it is one of the most iconic battle scene cards for my character that, you know, exists.
Yeah.
Joe Jusko's work in 2016 with Marvel Masterpieces introduced autos to Masterpiece products, and I think that Joe Jusko has one of the best autographs in the game.
I would agree. Yeah. The out of 10, what were they? What if covers were introduced, right? I don't think those were part of the Masterpiece hierarchy before, and trying to find those Joe Jusko autos is just tough for some of those characters. They were all taken, right? By the time I was in the hobby, like, you only heard about certain cards. You didn't really see them. It's tough to find an image for. The last Doctor Doom card prior to 2022 produced was from that set. So it was one I always chased, and never got my hands on the auto. I kind of accepted my defeat, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna skip this set. It's a little too tough.
It's a tough set. I've only got one card in the whole set, and that's the Sabretooth Wolverine Battle Spectra for 16. I like how the modern sets, I like how vintage 1992 Marvel Masterpieces started with Joe Jusko, and then I like how the modern era of Masterpiece started with Jusko again. He's a cornerstone of any collection, and that was just a brilliant selection for reintroducing a product that had been asleep for a while.
Yeah, a great reintroduction. I mean, the part I liked the most was the buybacks, numbered out of 15, autographed, gold pin. You know, if you're gonna reintroduce Masterpieces, that's the way you do it. Bringing those 92 buybacks. Even the stamped ones are nice, because there's a stamped version. But yeah, that was always a fun set. At one point, I had the Joe Jusko autograph buyback out of 15. It was, you know, while I had it, it was one of my favorite cards. But, you know, going to 2018 Masterpieces, when I found out about Bianchi, that was hooked. Like, that was my favorite artist, and probably still is my favorite artist in just Marvel cards. Unfortunately, no Dr. Doom in that set. So
yeah, I got lucky. I got a Sabretooth out of that collection, and I agree with you that Simone Bianchi definitely captured the imaginations of the audience through his work. I mean, collecting in the 90s, there's such an attachment to Boris and Julie Bell with the 1996 set, and I think that Simone Bianchi really came into the modern sets and made a space for himself as a standalone artist.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about Bianchi, it's either you love it or you don't. His depiction of the world he creates is his own. It feels like, you know, everything he painted in that set is just his own take. You can't, as soon as you see it, you know, it has his signature all over it. So using a lot of dark tones, a lot of shadows, the way he breaks down negative space, and the way he does his character designs, I always loved. The Emma Frost comes to mind, like it's one of the best cards in there.
Yeah.
And my only regret is there wasn't a Doom in there. If not, I would have chased it for sure.
What an act to follow, walking into a Masterpiece set after a monster like Joe Jusko. So, you know, when you think about it, when I see an artist have to step up to the plate and live up to that, I mean, when they do execute in the way that Simone did, it's even that much more impressive.
Yeah. And, you know, I believe that set introduced the metallurgies, if I'm not wrong. Either that or Palumbo. I forget, but
I can't say for certain. And that's another interesting point, is how many new inserts have been introduced in the modern day masterpieces that have been embraced by collectors.
Yeah.
Preserved amber, metallurgies, emerald.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, same goes for Palumbo, right? 2020, his Moon Knight for me is one of the best Moon Knights, one of my favorites overall. And the Gwen, there's a great Gwen in there too. And I love it's divisive as well, his work, but for me, his work's all emotion. The way he puts down the paint, there's a presence to it that separates himself from the others in that aspect.
There's a material change too. You know, Palumbo utilizes watercolor where Simone seems to be using acrylic or oil. Jusco is an oil painter. Dan DeSanto is an oil painter. It's nice seeing different mediums throughout. And an interesting David Palumbo fact is that his mother is Julie Bell. Stepfather is Boris. So there's a lineage to this, these masterpieces. And I mean, this is like a story that we're trying to, we're telling everybody, and it almost sounds made up. It's so perfect. It's a very...
His preliminary art cards, probably my favorite prelim depiction across these modern sets with the red tones and the gray tones. They did those underpaintings. Yeah, it's a fun set for that. And then we go to 2022, right? My first participation in it. 2022 is when I get physically open some boxes for me. It's first experience to open a box of modern masterpieces. And it was fun. I mean, Dan DeSantos, we get an artist from Magic the Gathering, a guy who does a lot of covers for, what do you call that? Fantasy.
Yeah.
And his work is, reminds me of the Hildebrand brothers. Like the
incredible use of light.
Yeah, just the light on there.
A remarkable use of light. I mean, I love the 94 set as well. It holds a very special place in my heart due to the time period that it came out was when I was a child and I was interested in Marvel cards. Mm-hmm. But there's also just something so striking about it. I think for a lot of people, they saw masterpieces as an attempt at the highest possible end base cards you could get. And to see that much effort go into them and the execution just being amazing, and seeing Dan pull this off in 2022, I mean, there isn't a card in that set I don't like.
Yeah, it's very few that I would probably consider as most of it's great.
There's several characters that I'm not interested in the set at all, and I still think that they were done a justice. Like, as an artist like Dan, you can imagine that there are characters you're passionate about, and then having to paint one that is lower on your list, but providing it the same amount of talent is remarkable. I think that masterpieces is a self-explanatory term, you know?
Yeah. And his depiction of some of these characters, which I never paid attention to. The Death Bird is probably my favorite piece he did.
Man.
Yeah. Amazing. A lot of the X-Men, like, you can tell there's a real love there. The way he took his time to paint those. And it was a reintroduction of Doom in a modern set. It's a big deal. Getting him versus the Fantastic Four all in one card is kind of wild. The way he constructed that composition is top tier. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that set. I enjoyed the inserts that were introduced. I enjoyed the out of 10 battle spectrum cards, the green BSGs with the gold autograph. I thought that was a great touch.
Yeah,
the 1/1 gold BSG, I think, to me, like, it's up there, you know, one of the best cards. The rainbow foil, you know, I give a lot of criticism towards Upper Deck, they nailed that one. That was a great
Red
design.
Spectrums were, it was nice to see, you discussed this in a video recently. Red Spectrums are nice to see that they moved away from gold. I think we'd all seen enough gold for a little while. Moving to Red Spectrums, they're not my favorite card, but they're far from my least favorite card.
Yeah. And, you know, those have a certain respect in the hobby as well, right? Very high regards. But getting to see even the gold canvas, I don't know, something about the gold cards and 90s, you know, it's all great.
Before we wrap this up, I'd like to ask you, who's an artist you would love to see on the next Masterpiece set?
Oh, man. I would love...
but...
Yeah, it's very hard to decide. I have a couple in mind, but Gabriel Delato would be amazing. I think a lot of people would be interested in that set if it could happen. And as a personal favorite, Sienkiewicz, just having a full set would be awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing that with us, and we'll continue on. All right. We're very fortunate to have Dave Palumbo in the building. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thank you.
I'm thrilled to be able to ask you questions about Marvel Masterpieces because that's what we're going over today. So let's just get right to it. You are the artist that did the 2020 Marvel Masterpiece series. You were the only artist that worked on this set, which is typical of Masterpiece. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between working on a Masterpiece set versus working on another card set for Marvel?
Sure. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with other card sets. Platinum that just came out, and then Flare, which is coming out soon, I think.
Yeah, very soon.
So it was interesting to work on Masterpieces before doing those, but I'd been doing like Magic cards for 15 years or something, and other like card projects. I think the thing about Masterpieces that was really unique was knowing that for the next 2 years this was going to be like a regular part of my life, and that was really exciting and concerning. Having not worked with Upper Deck and having not seen what the approvals process and everything with Marvel was going to be like, I was nervous about committing to, it was 135 pieces, and wow. I was worried that I would get 20, 30 pieces in and it would just be like a revision nightmare or lots of micromanaging, but it was the complete opposite. They were just really like fantastic to work with and very, like just a very smooth process. So that ended up making the experience of doing Masterpieces in comparison to these other things really fantastic, because I could just kind of get in a groove where I was sending in sketches, and I was actually sending in like preliminary thumbnails and then sketches and then finals, and I had a kind of a rolling cycle going where I was working on different things kind of simultaneously. And it really allowed me, it made me realize how much on these smaller jobs where you're just doing like a few pieces at a time, you're constantly like having to switch gears and change back and forth, as opposed to being able to really like just put your focus into whatever task is in front of you and just do that without having to constantly be distracted by something else needing to get done.
2 years is an exceptional amount of time to have that laser focus on a series of paintings. At times, was it challenging to stay motivated on those characters, or for you, was it rather straightforward?
So I was actually, for at least the first year of that, I was also working on projects for other clients. So
you're a busy man.
Yeah, I mean, my process is I like to front load and figure out a lot of the problems and solutions before I start actually painting. So there were several months where I was just doing research, working on sketches, just kind of like slowly warming up the engine. And so that during that time, I was like doing that, working on stuff with other people. As it progressively became like more and more just the Marvel stuff, I don't know that, I think that I was happiest when I was able to be most focused. Like at a certain point, I remember there was a period of time, maybe 3 or 4 months from the finish, where I had gotten approvals on all sketches, and at that point, all I had ahead of me was maybe another like, I don't know, 50 pieces to paint that had all of the big problems worked out. And at that point, I just had to sit down one by one and work on them. I loved it. It was because I could just do the most fun part, which is the actual painting. Like the problem solving, planning stuff is the hard part, and then you get to just have fun with it. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember feeling. If anything, maybe at a certain point, I'd be far into it, and I'd regret that there wasn't some particular character. People have noticed certain characters missing from my set, and that might have been, if anything, pretty far down the line. I'd feel like, oh, it would have been great to have a Psylocke in here or something like that. But as far as the focus of the process or anything, it was actually like a pretty nice way to work. That was something I've never gotten to do before or since.
Amazing. Is there a couple of paintings that stand out to you as your favorites?
I think the battle spectra of Cyclops and Mr. Sinister is always one that jumps to my mind. There's a lot that I like for different reasons, but the battle specters were hard to communicate the relationship of the two characters, besides just that they're fighting each other, to do something personal or interesting about them, to showcase both of them, because you've got two characters fighting on a tiny card. It's sometimes kind of hard to really visually like see them very well. And so I just felt like that one, I was really happy with the solution of how that came together, and that it felt like it really also like tied into the stories of the characters. The Deadpool holofoil, both the Deadpools really, I sweated those a lot because I wanted to bring that like comedic tone, and that's not something that I feel like I have a lot of experience with in most of my work. So that was something that I spent a lot of time before I committed to the idea for either of those pieces. And I mean, those are kind of top of mind. There are some just visually, the Punisher, base card Punisher, I really like that one. I felt like Captain America was another tricky one for me to feel like I wasn't quite sure how to approach that character, and I was happy where I ended up. But yeah, I think I'm sure I'm missing a few, but I think those are among my highlights.
It's a big set, but those were some great those were some great ones to highlight. How did your career change after being a part of Masterpieces, or did it change?
So the hard part about answering that question is my set, I finished working on it, and then it came out later that same year in 2020, and it felt like the whole world changed. So,
no kidding. No kidding.
It is very easy to think of before and after for me, but I think like in ways that I could specifically pinpoint, like Marvel relating to anything, it's been fun to get to do more like private commissions for collectors of Marvel characters, and getting to do more Marvel, like official Marvel commissions as well. I grew up with this kind of universe and wanted to work on Marvel superhero stuff when I was young. I went, did some like summer classes at the Kubert School, and I originally thought like getting into comics is what I was going to do, and then that just wasn't the direction that my career took. And so when I got to work on the set, it kind of made me realize like how much I still really loved this stuff, and still it was very exciting and continues to be like really fun for me to work on. So yeah, I think like that's probably the biggest thing is just getting to start to play in that world and have that be a thing that people connect with my work. Because previously I was known for some other stuff that I also really enjoy, but that was a piece that was kind of missing.
Dave, I'm kind of getting the impression you love your job.
When it's going smoothly.
Right, yeah.
I have little to complain about, yeah.
Wow, you know what? I love that. You had mentioned that your upbringing, you had been exposed to Marvel cards. I think that a lot of people in the hobby know that your mother is Julie Bell, who was also one of the artists who was involved in Marvel Masterpiece 1996, a very iconic set. When you were doing Masterpieces, was Julie a helper? Was she a mentor? What was it like having that relationship?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. So I guess when she was working on that set, I was probably in middle school. I'm trying to think. And I remember being really excited about watching them create those pieces and watching that come together, and getting asked to come in and do my own set so many years later felt really like a very personal significance for that reason. Yes. And I actually didn't even realize it right away, but at some point I noticed that I was the same age working on my set as my mom was when she was working on hers.
Interesting.
Just by total coincidence.
So this whole story is so serendipitous.
I know, and yeah, when I remember when I was starting, I definitely was, well, first thing I did was just go and look at all of the work that they had done on their set. And yeah, kind of like was curious to see like how they, you know, I have a somewhat different aesthetic in the way that I paint to theirs, but
a different medium. Oh no,
I'm sorry.
A different medium as well, or are you...
we both work in oils, but not always on the same surfaces. And I think just in general, like my process, for a while, I originally started my illustration career using a process that was following pretty closely the way that they work. And I did that for a number of years. And over time, I kind of reformulated and eventually completely changed a lot of my process, which I think is a big part of why my work looks different from theirs. But also there are just certain things about, I think like a big one for the superheroes is the way that they kind of had a sort of like a body paint approach to the costuming, where they really had these, and they were working with these like world-class bodybuilders as models for those pieces. And so they were really like showing off that like the physiques of their models. Yes. With the way they handled the costuming. And just for whatever reason, my personal aesthetic was to treat the just with a little bit more realism on wrinkles and folds and materials and surfaces and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I do think there were some things that were kind of interesting to compare notes with her on some of this stuff. And I also was able to go and look through like there are certain parts of the process that are kind of invisible on the end, like user end of things, but that are really interesting to me to kind of look at that and reverse engineer and understand how people work. So yeah, it was definitely valuable to kind of be able to consult like that.
I'm sure. I find that very interesting. I find the story and all of it to be very. It's amazing actually. It brings another bit of charm to the set. What would be a piece of advice that you would have for somebody, the next person doing a masterpiece set? If any, for that matter.
I think, yeah, it's in some ways it's hard to give a blanket piece of advice because I think everybody has such a different approach and process. And I would say one of the things that worked for me was planning in big batches. And it's interesting. I'm sure you're gonna chat with Dan at some point, Dos Santos, who worked on the 22 set. I would hope that you get a chance to talk to him. I know that talking to him, it sounds like he worked on his pieces just one by one, front to back. So he would do a piece and then just start sketching and go to completion on the next one, end to end like that, which to me, I don't know how that he was able to do that. I think that is very impressive because that's where I was talking about, like getting into a flow with things and not having to constantly be jumping around or getting distracted by starting a new job or you know, shifting gears into somebody else's thing. I think the thing I would advise anybody is to really kind of try to think and plan a lot in advance, so that then you can, if you want to like make references between different cards, or if you want to, I mean, really even just for efficiency, it's just being able, for example, like if you're working with a model for one character, you can plan multiple pieces with that same model and not have to run into the inevitable snag that they're no longer available when you need them the next time, a year and a half in the future or something. So yeah, I would say that was, yeah, that was probably the biggest thing that I think that went right for me. And I'm trying to think like what I wish I would have done differently. I think probably this goes back to something I said earlier. When they asked me up front, they asked me for a list of characters I wanted to do. And I was concerned if I gave them too large of a list that it would not, I guess I was thinking, if there's like 40 characters that are really important to me to do, and I give them a list of 100 names, there's a greater chance that those 40 are not all going to make the final cut. So I gave them a kind of like a smaller list, and then the other names, the rest of the roster got filled out with suggestions from Marvel and Upper Deck, which was really fun, and it brought a lot of weird oddball characters into the mix. But it also is something in retrospect. I wish that I would have been a little more liberal with my length of my list and asked for some more characters. I think there were some that I just thought, well, they're definitely going to be in there. I don't need to ask for that one. And
hindsight is always 20/20.
Yeah. I think I would have been asked for a little bit more, and then taken it from there if something that I wanted ended up not making the cut.
Right. Your set turned out beautiful. You turned out amazing, and you had quite the act to follow between Joe Jusko and Simone Bianchi. And did you feel any pressure following up those two acts, or were you very much in your own lane?
I was excited and scared, and I knew, I mean, just from having been fans of the sets that were released in the 90s, I was less aware with the modern sets when I was working on mine. I had seen Simone's work, and of course I knew Joe's work from the 92 set, which I collected back when those were coming out. And just being a part of the family in general was really intimidating. Yeah. So I tried my best to just kind of put that out of my mind and think about what are the versions of these characters that I want to see, and how does this make sense to me, and understand that there are going to be some people who don't care for what I do and don't see my set as strong as some of the others. And then there are going to be other people who really gravitate to my set. And that's just the nature of things, is try to make yourself happy, and then others are going to take it or leave it as they wish.
I personally love your set, and I think on that note we'll lead into showing your set now. Thank you so much, Dave.
For sure. Thank you.
So you've opened up a lot of MM22. Do you want to tell us how much you opened?
So yeah, it was 4 cases worth.
Wow. That must have been so fun. Like, that must have been outrageous.
Yeah, it was. So the experience was interesting. So, which, like, you'll see, like, we'll show the clip. The first case was awesome. Did like a private live kind of thing, just friends, like it wasn't on live on YouTube or whatever. And then people joined in. I had my wife to my right, my brother to my left, and it was just me opening the case. And it was one of the really good cases. Because as people kind of seen probably with masterpieces, you can kind of tell really fast if it's a good case or not.
Right.
And it was a great case, got everything I could have hoped for. But then instead of quitting while I was ahead, because we don't do that in cards, I then did a second case. Same thing again, but it was a bad case.
Yeah.
And same thing, like opening with people, and just when it was bad, everybody was quiet. It was no fun at all. So then I hated it. But then once I like sorted all the stuff, because I don't keep sketches, and I like sold off everything else, and it was still kind of early with the release, so I got I think I got most like 70-ish% of my money back. So I was like, okay.
Nice. Wow.
I then convinced myself to get a third one, and then opened it just with my brother and my wife, and that was it. So
amazing.
It was fun. And then it was a good case again. In terms of like, I did get a Gleep sketch, so that was cool. And then it was one of the tier 4 cases, so like all the oranges were tier 4s, all the holofoils were like the better characters. And so that kind of averages. So same thing, sold off the stuff. So then I was still down. I mean, like I had spent thousands of dollars, right? But in my head, I was thinking, I had made some trades, so I got a lot of sketches. I kept the sketches. It was fun. There's also the cost of just opening. And then I did a 4th one, I think, because they were on sale at Black Friday or somewhere around like Christmas time.
Yeah.
4th one, and just kind of with family. And then I had a bunch of loose boxes from the initial release that I was just kind of saving, because I didn't. Loose boxes, when it's that expensive, I feel like I need the case to hit the average to get money back, because it's so expensive for the sketch hunt.
Yeah.
I just sold the boxes. I didn't keep them.
What was your dream card to hit opening up this? What were you after? What was your chase?
Oh, the redemption for the uncut sheet.
And why don't we talk about that?
So yeah, it was uncut sheet. I regretted never getting one from the other previous sets, 2016 especially. 2018. I didn't really collect 2020 too much, and so that was my main hope. And then that's what I got in the first case, so I was able to pull it. Because yeah, of course, the redemption for the painting or those sketch covers are wild.
Yeah.
Whenever we see those, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Preliminary art redemption would be cool, but the uncut sheet was what I wanted, because I thought I can just put it. I'm going to put it on my wall right here, and that's it. So I've actually got it back here.
Let's check it out.
So what's neat about, I think 2016 was the only year where they did it the double side with the back glued on, and then after that it's only the front layer of the cards, because those cards are thick.
Yeah.
So then, and then this year I kind of like that they split it, so then there's a little bit of a gap, so like someday I kind of want to get Dan to sign it in the middle.
Oh yeah, that was a great idea.
Because I had that thought, and I think someone actually got theirs signed at OAX.
That is so cool.
Because my thought with this was like, is then I have the base set. Like that was my thought. Like I have a complete set, since I'm a sketch and art guy, because I like stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
This is my way of having the set without having to pay the cost, right? Like it's still, I mean, I think the last redemption for an uncut sheet went for maybe like a little under $2,000, and that's got to be way cheaper than like the tier 4 set alone.
Yep, 100%.
So that was kind of my lot. It was obviously a great pull. They're not easy to get, and it was expensive and all that, but it was like, in my mind, that was the reasonable thing to like ask the universe for. Like,
I'm so glad that you got it. That's a huge pull. So in this set, I mean, Dan is a remarkably good artist. How do you compare 2022 to the previous modern sets that have come out?
To me, it's my favorite. Now, I'm a little bit biased because I did get to go to like his painting sort of event thing where you got to buy paintings. I bought one painting. So that kind of, I don't know if that sort of tainted my opinion, and that it was fun. Like, it was great. He was super nice. So that sort of, as I think, like, as an art collector, a sketch card collector, connection with the artist means a lot to me, especially like if they're nice and if I get to meet with them and talk with them, APs or whatever, it means a lot. So then with this, it's why I tend to like this set the most, because as much as I love David Palumbo a lot too, he's as nice as could be. Yeah. Dan is, and it seems like Simone, everybody likes Simone, but Dan's the only one I've really like interacted with heavily. Yeah. So that I like the person. His art style is my favorite of all of the modern sets. Fantastic. And as an artist. When you look at it in person, I remember when we first saw previews of it, it was like, oh, is this digital? And he's like, kids around about getting that a lot, but in person, it doesn't look digital at all. Like, it looks, you can see the paint and the brush strokes, and so it was just sort of a complete package for me, which is why I like it, and it's sort of my favorite. And then from an opening perspective, of course, I wish it was cheaper, but that's just sort of the world we're in now. It felt like it was more controlled in terms of parallels and hits and stuff. So I think if I gave it a grade, I'd give it like a 90 or 91 out of 100, right? For it to be perfect is if it still had a sketch per box, like the older modern masterpieces. Because then for me, I would have had something to be excited about every box, looking forward to flipping that sketch over. Yeah. And then the rest of the stuff is gravy to like sort of offset the cost of the fun and the sketches.
So needless to say, your favorite insert in this, beyond a redemption and sketch, was sketch cards. For sure, for sure.
I think the Battle Spectrum gems were really cool. I thought they actually looked really good. So I sort of got what people were excited about that. I didn't really pull any of the fancy like green signed ones or any of those. No, I like those. The gallery, the other thing that's hard is like as a sketch person, like I do appreciate some of this stuff, but a lot of it, I kind of don't get it. Right. You know, I don't get the collecting of it. So some of it just sort of doesn't resonate with me at all. But no, I thought the Battle Spectrum gems were cool. The holofoil patterns were neat. I thought that was a good touch. I wish they didn't do repeats of the base set cards and did use the art that they didn't use. But I think they had a last set. I bet that they had a last second panic and went, oh shoot, we don't have enough art to do achievement cards on e-pack, so let's just redo some ones from the set for the physical release, then we'll save these other ones for achievements so that they're new and not different parallels of ones people have already seen.
So you're one of the people that I know personally that's had the most involvement with MM22, from opening, from attending the art show. From my distant view of this set, it seems like this was the set where the original art played a larger role in being a commodity for this set, and also having Dan DeSantos participate so much in the box breaking and having an art show. And it just seemed that this one had a lot of involvement at the artist level for the product.
Yeah, I mean, 2016, Joe sold them all to somebody in private. Nobody knows where they are. So it wasn't even a thing. Yeah. Then 2018, there was like an art show, but a lot was sold ahead of time. You could buy some online. Yeah. But Simone was a pretty big artist. And at that time, my brother and I, it wasn't even the stratosphere of like affording. We weren't going to do, I wish I had the money I had now then, right? Like would have got even more sketch cards and art. Right. And then 2020 came out. You know, Magneto is my main character. I didn't really like Dave's Magneto that much. I liked more obscure characters in there, and at the time I just didn't want to spend a couple $1,000s on like random characters, right? Just for the fun of it. Right. And I think my brother, the Beast was an insert, so he wasn't going for the printing plates and stuff. So then, yeah, when this set came around, you know, you get to go to the painting event. All the X-Men is like classic kind of my X-Men, what I think about. Yeah. So all the characters are my version. It seemed like a fan painted the set, which is cool. Yeah. Not like someone kind of just didn't really care about the characters, and it was a job. So it like, and then also, I mean, the benefit of being at that event is you went through every painting on like a PowerPoint and talked about why he did what he did and stuff, and you were just like, oh, this is unbelievable. There's so much thought and care put into it, and it's how do you not be a fan?
It's a really different involvement for this set for sure. The MM22 definitely go down as the set that had a lot of involvement from the community and from the artist. Do you want to chat about any paintings that you did get from the set?
So then, yeah, I have it hanging in my other room, but so the one painting I bought at the event was Magneto, which hasn't been released yet. We just saw a picture of it for the first time on that print, those signed prints. So that was kind of exciting to see that. And then, as I was saying, like from opening all those cases, I had a lot of sets and things, so I was selling stuff. And Dan, being a collector, like he wants to collect his own set, like it was kind of fun. I had most of the preliminary art, so we were like doing a trade. And he was like, hey, he was asking about buying them or trading. And I was like, well, of course I'll trade, like, because I knew him and stuff. And I thought, like, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got some art around. And he happened to have this, which I haven't really shown.
Wow.
Which is a color study from the beginning.
Wow.
When he was sort of working out what he wanted to do. So it's similar. It's got like the tanks and bullets and like the field around them, but then he kind of changed the pose to more actiony on the actual painting. Yeah. So it's just like a neat sort of little piece of history, and it was just it was a nice, just sort of nice having him send like different artwork that he had, and was like, hey, what do you like? And being like, holy crap, he has Magneto. Like, how does he not know that's what I want? And just, you know, he brought it with him to OAX when we went to go to that convention, and it was like fun to show everybody. And obviously lazy and haven't gotten it framed yet, but I plan to hang it right next to my painting from the set. Look forward to seeing what, if anything, that card is in e-pack. I'll probably just buy a single copy of it whenever it comes out. But
so it sounds like you hit everything that was a dream situation for you in MM22.
Yeah.
You traded your way into it, which is amazing. Rather than having to buy everything, you had an opening experience and a trading experience.
No, that's why, like we were kind of talking a little bit before starting, I sort of feel weird in my collecting is I think I've hit a lot of my sort of bucket list stuff all within one set. So I almost have this kind of hangover of being tired, where it's I don't quite know exactly what to do. And it feels like I'm only looking for something that hits like a magic inside my heart spot where I'm like, I have to have this. If it's not like something where I love it and I can see myself keeping it till I die.
Right.
I don't really like, so I don't like buy a lot. And so this, it was, yeah, I never thought I would own a painting room set. Never thought I'd get to go to like an art show. And I felt super out of place and uncomfortable because I'm not wealthy. Right? Like wealthy enough to buy like an expensive thing. That's cool. Like my wife helping out with that, but I wasn't buying multiple paintings, and it was weird. I felt like I was at like a rich person thing, like things you see in movies.
That's interesting.
It was very surreal, and being with my brother, and then getting it was actually like he got exhausted when it was over. It was odd.
Nice.
And then you get like a preliminary art. I don't have any preliminary art. I've been doing Dan's Patreon, and he does those preliminary like transfers sketches. I was fast enough on one. So I got Kingpin, so I'm like excited to have that. Cool. So yeah, it's just been fun. That's the best way to describe it. It's fun the whole way through. So like, as somebody who doesn't, you know, you collect very different than me. You like to collect sets, right? I don't look at stuff that way. I look at cases as like, hey, what can I open to get some sketches to keep? And then get value back that I don't care about getting all my money back, right? You got paid to have fun.
Yeah.
But if I can get usually 50% or more is sort of how I think about it. So, and that's what it was. It was fun. I got more than half my money back. Now that 50% was a lot more money than I'm used to, but it was, you know, it's a once in a lifetime thing. Like I don't think the next masterpieces I probably won't open any. Yeah. Because I just don't think this will ever happen again. I don't think the boom of the art that happened with this set, and it seems like everybody wants to collect art now or get connections with the artists. I don't think this will ever happen again.
Right. I love hearing the story of how you've interacted with MM22. Like I mentioned, you're the person I know that interacted the most with it, and in sort of the most unique way. And I love seeing how other people collect. Like you mentioned, you and I collect very differently, and I feel like I get to vicariously live through your collecting in a way. one of the wonderful parts of Masterpiece. So Jake, thanks a lot for touching on that today.
Sure.
And that's a wrap for my Marvel Masterpiece mini documentary. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this whole video. This was my whole collection up until 2022, and I'm still waiting for an e-pack release so that I can assemble the variant cover tier 1 to 3 collection. That one is something I want to add to this. I've had so much fun collecting Marvel Masterpieces over the years, and I do mean over the years, as in like the first time I had my hands on Marvel Masterpiece was like 1995. So over the years that I am 37 years old and still having this conversation about Marvel Masterpieces is awesome. It goes to show you that the name is self-explanatory. The product is incredibly cool. The artists that worked on them are all still legends. And I want to thank everybody who had a chance to talk on the podcast here on the mini doc about Marvel Masterpieces, and really bring a general consensus from the community that collect them about how much joy they bring us all. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you soon.